So a lot of your stuff, it does have this kind of quality to it where it's reminiscent of, your kind of 70s post-punk, late 60s like The Doors, that kind of thing. When did you first become aware of that type of music? And when did it kind of first attract you?
I think I don't know, like parents kind of stuff. My dad listened to a lot of The Doors, stuff like that. But then I think he kind of got brought up on that old. They were never into like the Beatles or anything. My parents never into like the Beatles or anything like that. So they kind of went for The Doors and the Stones and stuff. So I think a lot of my mates would go for the poppier kind of route. I ended up going for Doors and the Rolling Stones, the kind of darker, rockier kind of stuff. But
I think like the Doors stuff as well is pretty like you just inherit it naturally. It's in so many like films, and you don't realise how much of it you know until like you hear Riders on the Storm when you're like 18, and then you're like, oh, I actually know this song. So I think that comes into it a lot. You are like just naturally aware of it.
I think it's aged so well. Like the Doors stuff, especially like I think the use of the synth and like the organs and stuff, like compared to other music that came out in a similar time to that, it's just aged so well. So it still sounds as good today as it did not as good, but it still sounds good now because it's just still modern. Still feels modern anyway. I think you can connect with that more. Whereas you listen to some other old stuff and you're like, do you know what I mean? You can't really feel it because it doesn't feel as relevant still.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just discovering it like that and the darker stuff and the old stuff, 70s and the post-punk 70s stuff. I think just came from that and then went like Doors and all that sort of stuff, and then went further and Strokes. Listening to Strokes and where their influences came from and all that sort of stuff, television and all
Jonathan
that sort of
Richman.
Richman, Modern Lovers, and it's all in the same sort of CBGBs kind of. It's all connected, isn't it? You know what I mean? So I thought you just branch off.
So do you quite often look at like your favourite bands and what they're influenced by, and then kind of go and investigate that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the best way to like find a band is if like a band you like recommends another band. You can usually trust their opinion. Yeah. Unless they're trying to be a bit cool, which happens quite a lot.
What
I think so.
bands have you like come across in that way? Like influences of your influences?
Bands like Black Lips. We used to be like quite into garagey kind of West Coast stuff. I remember a lot of bands saying, "Oh, these are underrated. These are a good band. You should check them out." These are like Television was a big one for Strokes. Strokes were massively influenced by Television, and through that I found them. And so it's just a good way of doing it like that, I think. Good way of finding bands.
Were there any bands that you listened to that kind of had like an immediate impact upon your songwriting? And does that still happen today at all?
Bob Dylan.
I remember I was on like a really long plane flight and everyone was like, you need to listen to Bob Dylan, And then I just sat down and did it. And then I think from then on, it just made everything simpler. You just realise how simple the songs are. And you think you just was completely overthinking things. And then you can actually just write simple songs that are actually pretty good.
Structurally?
Structurally, yeah, and like a lot of his songs kind of will just repeat, and it'll just change the lyrics, or it'll just slightly change the melody, and you think he's not trying to write this massively convoluted 7-part Bohemian Rhapsody thing. He's just writing a simple song and just doing it better every single time he plays it. And I think that just made us both realise that it's just not, like, you don't have to overthink it really. Make it quite simple. But there's a lot of bands as well, like a more modern band, like a band like Proto Martyr or something like that, who are quite like a post-punky band. And the guy doesn't even really sing. He just kind of speaks and kind of shouts and over the background of the music, and the melody's there, but like he barely sings it. He just treads on the melody. And I think that shows like you don't have to stick to it that much. Do you know what I mean? You can kind of escape, like explore around the melody rather than just, I need to sing perfectly all the time. But yeah, they're two big ones, I'd say.
I want to touch on what you said there about Bob Dylan and structure, that how simply his stuff is. How important is structure to your songwriting, and has it become more or less important with time?
I think it's pretty big.
I think it makes or breaks a song, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we always feel we're never happy with a song until it's finished. I think for us, a song that's finished has like all the bits, has all the structure. We'd never like rush to play a song or rush to record a song if we didn't think we had the structure like perfect. Yeah. I think that's one of the big things. I think, to be honest with you, structure's like a very big thing for us.
I think, it's something we definitely consider more now than we used to, just to keep things interesting. I mean, we were seeing a lot of bands where like a lot of the sounds would be good, but structurally it was very repetitive. So like it's nice to keep it interesting and experiment with structure a bit, just for everyone's sake, to be honest. Like keep yourselves interested, keep your audience interested, surprise people. So yeah.
I think when we started the band, we watched a lot of bands, and we were like, this is very like the same the whole way through. There's no like ups and downs, no structure. There'll be like a verse, chorus, and then just end. You know what I mean? It's like 2.5 minutes of just that, and it was just tiring. It's tiring to listen to, tiring to watch. I think one of the early things we set out to do straight away was have the massive dynamic and structure. I think dynamic and structure for us are like the two biggest, just to keep it fresh, like a song when you're listening to it. Like have loud bits, have quiet bits, have a loud chorus, kind of explode into it, but then have like a bridge and do you know what I mean? Like kind of really define that rather than having just like a. It's easier to digest, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
After you started the band, did you then go back and revisit a lot of the bands you were into before and kind of look at them and how they worked a bit more, and then kind of apply it to yours?
Yeah.
People always like there's a lot like a very obvious one is like Pixies, the band the Pixies. Like they've got like very renowned for having that kind of quiet verse, like blast into a huge chorus, quiet verse, chorus, quiet verse, and they kind of do that really, really well. I think that was something that we looked at because we never start out to sound like the Pixies or anything like that. But then I think when we'd watch so many bands and their structure be so bad, I think we went back to Pixies and we were like, oh, these guys get it right. We want to do something similar to that because it just makes it good, interesting to listen to, like a song that can just come out and give you that big haymaker.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about your music as well is that you have the lyrics, but you also have this sense of atmosphere that's kind of conveyed with the instrumentation. They always work really well together.
Yeah.
Does one come before the other, and how do they kind of affect each other?
I think the songs start very simple, and then Joe and Sandy and Sharpie, the rest of the boys, and Tom as well, who used to be in the band, who was involved with a lot of the writing and the structure of the songs. I think they'll have like maybe a sinister or a darker feel, and then the instrumentation will kind of be inspired by that, and then we'll come alongside that. Yeah, come alongside that, and like a lot of the organs and stuff we never really started with, and then the songs just kind of felt like they naturally leaned towards that kind of gothic-y,
like cinematic kind of feel.
Cinematic, atmospheric stuff like you were saying. I think it kind of leans more towards that, just the type of songs that we were writing and we wanted to write as well.
Yeah, that darker kind of cinematic thing you're speaking about, it often carries into the lyrics. Like you look at the Vicar's Fingers where you're speaking, or kind of examining death a wee bit and touching upon that. By looking at that in a song, what does that kind of do for you, and what are you kind of trying to achieve by discussing that?
Lyrically?
Personally as well, does that affect you after you do that?
Yeah, I think so. I think I struggled for a long time to like have something to write about. Like I had a pretty boring life. I mean, pretty standard childhood and all that sort of stuff. And then I think things come along and things kind of, something happens and you kind of have a different outlook and different aspect of things. It just gives you something to write about, and I think we kind of always like the darker stuff, lyrically darker stuff, and then it kind of just pairs so well with the dark organs, the dark guitars and stuff, and it kind of, like you said, creates like a cinematic kind of atmosphere. But lyrically, I don't think we overthink it. We really don't overthink it.
No,
it's like I said, like the Bob Dylan stuff, like it's even if we did like a 10% of what he does, but they're so simple, do you know what I mean? He probably just sings what comes to him, and
rarely change a lot of the lyrics from like even the first drafts of songs you send us. They're normally very similar lyrically to what the finished product comes out as. I mean, you may repeat the first verse twice and end up having to write a second verse just before you go into the studio, but there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like that's just like exploring the song a bit more. But yeah, I think the lyrics seem to be something that normally come with the song straight away.
Yeah,
for you as a writer.
Yeah.
What kind of prompts you to change lyrics from like the first draft?
Cringing.
Copying people.
Copying people, yeah. Yeah, ripping people off.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, actually, this sounds familiar. I feel like someone's already done this. No, I think a lot of the times, like we've come up with the best lyrics sometimes, like in the studio. I feel like when you sometimes need to, you will just kind of come out with it, and it stands the best. And I think, as well, like a big influence for us as a band was the bassist joined Sharpie, and he does creative writing as like his profession, his degree, profession, yeah. And so he came and he had like we just never thought about lyrics really, and he was like a lyric kind of man, and just kind of made us realise we need to kind of step up and put more effort into it and put more attention into it. And
yeah, it's nice considering it now. It's like another discipline that we didn't realise.
Yeah, I think we were lucky because we never thought about it before, and we were always all right. But now we kind of do consider it more, and it turns out better, I think.
Yeah,
it's good.
And as well, with you guys live, I was watching some of the sessions that you've done for, various people. And there's this kind of sense of power and this dynamic range that's kind of present in the live performance. What difficulties do you come upon when trying to translate that to recorded? And if so, how do you overcome?
Loads. Yeah, we've had a lot, to be honest with you. I think like one of the main, not criticisms, but the main kind of feedback we've had from recordings and stuff was that the live stuff doesn't really translate to recordings, and it's just, I think because we just give it so much live and we put so much energy in, it's just very difficult to kind of...
It's a nice problem to have in a way, but at the same time it makes it frustrating sometimes when you're in the studio and you want to convey your best live performance, but it just doesn't necessarily translate to like a flat MP3 file the same as seeing it or feeling it a bit more.
But I think we overthink, we've overthought old recordings and just sapped the life out of them. I think that's something we've struggled to kind of like hold back from, because we want to do so well, and we want to like care about the songs so much that we've kind of just sucked the life out of them. Whereas it's now we're trying really hard to just leave it as it is and kind of capture that live stuff to try and get the dynamics, like you said, a bit more.
Do you think you're better like maintaining like a sense of perspective now throughout the recording process?
Yeah, I think we've not recorded loads, so we're still kind of learning and stuff, but I think the most recent ones we do, the songs that are coming out this year, have just been completely different and have had that live kind of energy, and I think the way we did it was like how we want to do it from now on, I think. Yeah, it was much more fresh, much more natural.
Take it back to live for a second. That power that I was kind of speaking about, do you feel you all have different roles in kind of conveying that on stage to kind of bring that together?
Yeah, definitely, I think. I mean, we're all focusing on different jobs when we're playing live, but we're all trying to convey the same message, but in different ways, whether it's someone just showing what they're playing actually means something to them, or it may be Sandy chucking in a different drum fill that none of us have ever heard before, and that can just sort of like add a bit of like,
gives you like a boost.
Yeah, it does, and then you can kind of, although you're playing the same song and it's not like exactly like a live jam, you're still chucking bits of extra like special flavours in that are live that do make it unique to a recording, which I do think is really nice.
And I think as well, like, I know you said you feel like everyone has a different role and sort of stuff, but I think we saw a lot of bands, I think these days there's kind of like a tendency to go towards that kind of like one front man, front woman sort of band, and then the rest of the band behind them, but we've never done that. We've like, it's more like 4 front men, do you know what I mean? We'd never like, one person wouldn't be like stepping forward to do it. We're all confident enough to have our own bit, to do our own bit, to do a little solo bit, to kind of like, oh lads, I want to do this bit by myself, and he'd be like, yeah, of course, do you know what I mean, jump in, that's your bit. I think the personalities are very similar. There's no like, leader, there's no one stepping out or anything, which is good, because there's no one shying away.
Do you ever find as well that the emotions and like the experiences that you're kind of articulating in the music, kind of they come back out when you're playing them live? And if so, how do you kind of deal with that?
I think so.
Yeah, I think because the dynamics.
That London gig we played recently, I remember just really like feeling every song.
Yeah.
I mean, it does definitely depend on where you are, sort of in your headspace at the time, and when you're playing the gigs and what the songs mean to you and how much they mean in terms of what you're doing. But no, I definitely think the songs do mean a lot to us, whether it's just in terms of like sentimental value or like the actual meaning and origins of the song. They do mean a lot, and I think we do try and convey that live as genuinely as you can.
Yeah, and like I said, the dynamic sort of stuff, because it's not just a continuous thing, you have the moments where you can get up for it and kind of, express yourself a bit more because we've written it in that way.
Can it ever be tough as well, though? Because obviously some of the songs I've written about quite dark things. Is it tough if you start, really experiencing that on stage?
I think so. Like, the dark, but there's nothing like it's nothing personal. It's nothing you know, anything that's bad that's happened to us. Really, we just like, it's more of an observation. It's not like a personal kind of diary or like a. It's passionate, like the lyrics are passionate and stuff, and they've come from like a good place. But it's nothing like, oh, we're putting our soul on record.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Not
It's
yet.
more. It's an observation, I think. More. But like, I kind of like that because all the bands we've always liked, it's kind of like an outsider looking in. I think we've always liked to write from that kind of observing. The songs, like some of the first songs, on like The Fly on the Wall and Vicar's Fingers, was more like observations, like of people and weird
Events.
people and events and stuff that have happened, rather than dark stuff that's happened to us. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In terms of observing, like what you're saying there, like the crowd observing you, what emotion do you kind of most want your music to exude from a crowd for them to get out of it?
What do we want then, sir?
What emotion would you most want it to strongly exude in a crowd?
I think just excitement, and yeah, I think just excitement. I think music should make you excited. When you're paying £6 or 60 quid to go and see a band, if you leave and your heart rate wasn't racing at one point, and then the next minute you were, you know, questioning life decisions or whatever, I think you need to be rethinking your live performance if you're not exciting people. I think that's the most exciting thing for us as a band, is the prospect of exciting other people. It's the bit that I get the most sort of reward from, people telling me that. So I think that's a nice feeling to exude upon people.
I think the best way to do that as well is if you tread the balance between like two things. So if it's like a lot of the bands really like tread the balance really well of like sad and happy, or like, you know, one bit sounds sad and it goes to a happy bit, rather than having this is a happy song, this is a sad song. If you can tread that line where it's like hope and kind of,
it's like a tightrope. It's
no
like watching
hope.
watching someone on a man on a wire, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like watching someone balance. If you can balance that happy sad, then people are kind of like, ooh, rather than, people don't feel comfortable then, people feel on edge because you don't know, like, am I feeling sad, am I feeling happy, is it like a joyous thing, is it a mournful thing? But if you can keep people in that middle kind of Venn diagram,
Yeah.
then I think it excites people quite a lot.
We spoke a lot about, or we spoke at the start more rather, about where the music takes influence from and that kind of 70s thing. How do you take that sonically and kind of make it relevant in 2020? How do you go about doing that?
That's hard, I think.
Yeah, it's hard.
Because a lot of the recordings from the 70s,
Recordings
pretty
from,
bad.
Yeah, everything's pretty analog, and nowadays you can try and do it as much as you like, but more often than not you'll be tracking stuff digitally and using digital pedals and whatever, whether it's modelling amps or whatever. But I think trying to keep it as organic as possible.
using tape.
Yeah, we used tape with Green Door with Ronan from Sweaty Palms. That was a really good experience for us. Like,
just for the bare bones of it, just do some tape, just so it has that kind of.
there's no hiding.
70s.
It's a lot more conducive to your live performance anyway as well. But I think just sort of nicking flavours here and there from the 70s is quite a good way of doing it. 70s, 80s, but then even now on these new recordings there's a lot of more modern sounds that I think are coming through, like some bassy synths and some sort of like, not chorused guitars, but guitars at the same octave play, like different octaves playing the same thing, which can sound quite modern.
The new ones definitely sound more modern, I think. I think we got a little bit too obsessed with trying to make it sound old,
Yeah.
70s.
I think they still do in a way. It's just flavors. I think that you've just got to steal from different places and
Bad guitar solos.
create. Yeah,
Playing guitar solos badly is a good one.
deliberately badly.
That's quite a 70s thing. Just
wrecking
crap guitar solo.
wrecking your hand doing it.
Someone else that I know that you're a fan of, it was about in the 70s, was David Bowie.
Yeah.
And he was obviously this guy who was this master of reinvention, who on every new album it was completely different. If you had to reinvent yourselves, what would you reinvent yourself of? What genre and what would you go to?
That's a very good question. We're not really musical enough. Not good enough at music to do anything more complex.
I don't know. I mean, we all like different genres of music, which we've experimented with, but I don't know if I'd want to completely reinvent myself or just touch upon things at a time. More like you're into your hip hop, Sandy's into his jazz. Like I was into like a lot of like like more classic rock, older stuff. But I don't know. A dad rock band.
Yeah, dad rock.
Dad rock.
No, I don't know. I think we like. We've had a few choices before where it's like, do you want to go this way and sound a bit like more fun, kind of more like 70s fun band, or do you want to go the darker kind of way? And it's, yeah, I think we don't really want to choose. Don't want to choose just yet.
Yeah.
I feel like if we tell you what we want to change to, that means that we already are something, and we don't want to do that.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks
That's
for
good.
having us.
Thank you, mate.